Hi, nobodies. So, still rocking this beauty. Gotta love it. I'm getting too old for this shit. I did not dig it out. This is just peeling the stuff off of it so it'll drain. um, so I posted on Facebook about this guy I knew who was always harping about how like he'd get so upset about every time somebody would talk about God. They would refer to God as he, him, his word. And I looked at this guy, a bunch of times. I said, I'm not offended. Now I'm female. So if anybody should be offended, it should be me, right? But I'm not offended. And I went on to explain to this person that in other languages, everything is considered masculine or feminine. Makes sense that if God is an it, then it would be considered masculine or feminine. Just in general. I mean, that's just the way, they languages and naming things and deciding that everything had to have a gender, that was going on long before me, long before feminism, most likely before the Bible was even written. Things were named, and they would have like an article to say whether it was masculine or feminine. I mean, that's just how it is. It's no big fucking deal. And it brings to mind my whole idea of people who get involved in causes that they have no reason to get involved in. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of women, those women who would say it's not chairman, it's chairperson, and hey, I'm not looking down on those people. If you feel like it should be chairperson, then by all means, you do you. Get mad about that. But only a woman should get mad about it. Really. I mean, why should a man be pissed? Because he's called a chairman over chairperson. He's a man. Why should he be upset? If I was a chairman, I would be cool with being called a chairman, because that's the title. Because back when they named things, women weren't doing that. It's not saying like you're a man. I don't know. I don't get like the whole feminist thing too much. I mean, I get like some things, but like when it comes down to just the finer details, it's like I don't care. Call it what you want, and I know that there's people who will refer to God as she, and I don't look at them like they're crazy. It sounds better than it. Like I'm going to stumble on somebody referring to God as an it over them referring to God as she or he. Because I'm like, yes, God is an it in my head. But to wrap your brain around it's so much easier to consider that God is female or male. I mean, it's like, this is the creator, it's a concept, okay? I think that it's easier for people to have the concept of God as being masculine or feminine, and most people are more comfortable with God being masculine. I mean, otherwise, it wouldn't have been Jesus that saved us in their books. It would have been Mary Magdalene, I mean, God could have been Mary Magdalene. Why'd she have to be a dude? They figure, well, he picked Jesus, so God must be a man. But God's an it. Concepts. which furthers my idea that these things were all created by man. You know, the ancient Egyptians and ancient tribes who would draw pictures of UFOs, who would worship things. They worshiped things that didn't quite make sense to them. But they didn't make those things look like them. Isn't that strange? Like the gods and goddesses of Egypt and the Aztecs and the Mayans and stuff and the Hindis, they don't look like humans. They didn't put a human face on those. But Christians and Catholics and Muslims, you know, we all put this human face on it. And a lot of times when people think of God, they see the mass-produced pictures of Jesus. That's how a lot of people figure God looks. Or you've got like your cartoon drawings where God's an old man with a long beard, you know, white hair, white beard, white robe. You know, he's, you know, you've got two different ideas, but God is a male, you know, in most people's minds of that concept. Same with Allah, that it's male, you know. And I think a lot of people who are not Muslim would consider Allah to look like Muhammad, who nobody's ever really seen, you know, because Muhammad's face, he didn't allow people to, if they were going to do portraits or whatever, he didn't want his face done because he didn't want people to confuse the two, because obviously we get confused. I mean, think about it. You know, people, when a lot of Christians think of God and Jesus are pretty much the same look. Or at least that's how I see it, that they picture that. Or maybe it's just that I figure everybody pictures it that way because I picture God as Jesus and they're like the same. I mean, in terms of the literature. Now, in terms of what I believe, whole different thing. You know, I don't believe in the whole, like, God and Jesus being the same. I think Jesus was just a good man, a good person. There are good people. There are people who say, hey, you have everything you need. Why don't you help some people who need just a little bit of help? You know, you could have this vehicle, which is $40,000, and will do everything that you need it to do. It'll be comfortable. It will get you, you know, it'll last you for 20 years. And yet you're going to buy this car that's 5 times as much. It's only your secondary, you know, it costs 5 times as much. It's only your secondary vehicle. It's going to break down in 7 years. You know, and basically you're just buying it so people can say, wow, he's got money. Wow, look at him rolling, you know, or her. Don't want to get off the feminist topic. You know, she could be rolling too. Women are just as guilty of looking a certain way, and it's like, you know, you just went and spent all that money and you're walking past people who are having ramen noodles for dinner. And that's all they've had for dinner for weeks. They're malnourished, you know, and you are walking past them after having spent all this money on something that is stupid. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to pamper yourself, to have something that you know, to work towards having something that you love, to, you know, like if you think the most beautiful car on the planet is a Testarossa, you know, by all means, if you can buy a Testarossa, if that's your dream, buy your fucking Testarossa. Because you're not buying that Testarossa because you want people to look at you. You're buying that particular Testarossa because it's your dream car. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a woman spending thousands of dollars so she can feel pretty, if that's what she needs in her life. But if she's just doing it because, well, I've got money and that's what people with money do, I've got to show that I've got money, you know, if it's about showing that you've got it like that, uh, that's fucked up. You know, we need to be better people. You know, if I if I see somebody starving and I've got some food that I'm probably not going to eat, or it's been sitting in there for a while and I've just not like gotten around to making it, I'm going to hand that to them. It's nothing to me. I say that I give credit. Everybody's got a line of credit. And typically what I give is what I can afford to lose. You know, emotionally, physically, financially, I will give what I can afford to lose. It does not bother me. You know, and there's some people, you know, they're like, I've got to make money. I've got to save money. I've got to have money. I've got to, you know, just all this stuff about the money. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with the money? What's the purpose? You know, I mean, know what you're working for. I mean, if you're like, well, I want security. Yeah. Security for what? What are you going to do? Like, what do you want to be able to do? Because the whole point of making all that money is so you can do something with it. So at that point, when you've amassed a certain amount of money, what is your plan? Like, are you going fishing? What are you going to do for you? Or for the world? I mean, if you're that altruistic, you know, I mean, if you're gonna make all this fucking money, you know, to save the world, okay. At what point do you give that money away? At what point do you say, okay, I've made enough for me, the rest is for everybody else? Because the thing is like, if you're like, well, hey, I gotta work for security, I've got to do, if you're not getting your moments of rest, relaxation, restoration, you know, like if you're not getting your perks, you're wasting your fucking life. Because all of that money that you're planning on making, it's useless if you drop dead from a heart attack before you've hit your goal. You have to have things that you do for you. You've got to have, whether it's a moment in a day, a moment in a week, a moment in a month, where you take time and say, okay, I am going to do something just for me. This is what I'm working so hard for, is for me to have this bit of fun. You know, I just don't see the point in amassing things for the simple thing of having it. If you can't enjoy it, what's the point of having it? And you can't always put off that, well, I'll enjoy it tomorrow, because you don't have any guaranteed tomorrows. I mean, I get, you know, planning ahead. Trust me, I get planning ahead and wanting to be stable and financially secure and all of that. But I found that decent human beings, like really decent human beings, don't struggle as much. People want to help them. I mean, there was this homeless guy that just recently died. Like he died in December, and everybody in Little Rock knew who this guy was. If you were driving around Little Rock, you were going to come across this guy. You know, just he was a fixture. This was not somebody who would panhandle. He just walked around a lot. And everybody knew him. And most people, like, you could see him and know that he was homeless. You knew, looking at him, that he wasn't right. Um, but he didn't have this aura of evil or badness, I mean, you just kind of got this whole, he seems pretty damn happy, and sometimes you'd catch him, you'd say, oh, he's got new clothes, or it looks like he's had a bath, his hair isn't as messed up, like you would notice these things about him that sometimes he was better than other times, and you're like, oh, he must have got some help. Well, on Facebook, I come across, that he had died. And all of these people were talking about how many times they gave to him, and he wouldn't accept what they were trying to give to him, or he would accept it, but he'd be just like, they would see this joy come over him. People give to people who don't ask all the time. There have been times that I've needed help and I've begged for help and not gotten it. That happens. It's not really to say that you're not a good person. It's to say that you needed to weather that on your own. Even if you end up homeless, there are people who, this guy, there were tons of people over the years who tried to help him. He didn't want help. He didn't need help, really. I mean, as far as what they wanted to do for him, he had people looking out for him, but he wanted to live the way he was living, But the fact that there were lots of people who wanted to help him, who didn't even know him, I would leave food for him. I would do things for him. Not in a way like to approach him, because that would have required me to approach somebody, and I don't do that. But I would make sure to put out something, when I knew he was like really close, I'd rush out the front door of the restaurant I worked for, and I'd set the item on top of the trash can, and then I would run back in and then watch him grab the item, and I knew that he was getting a good meal. So I mean, there's good people. So this whole like preparing for doom, you don't know that that's gonna happen. You don't know that things are seriously gonna be that fucked up for you. So why not enjoy today? Why not consider that will happen, but and plan for that, but also consider that it might not. Maybe you don't have to be so hyper vigilant about things that may or may not happen, because you may or may not be alone. You may or may not get an inheritance you think you've got coming. I mean, there's tons of things that can happen. You might invest in something and it just skyrockets. I mean, there's 10 million good things that could happen just as well as 10 million bad things. So why not prepare somewhat for this unsure future, this uncertain future that you don't know if you got 10 days, 10 years, 10 seconds. You don't know what you got coming. So, how shitty are you going to feel if you work your ass off your whole fucking life and you die before you get to enjoy any of it? You're going to be like, wherever you fucking go when you die, if you're cognizant of it, you're going to be like, fuck. You're going to be sitting there going, like dudes who only slept with one woman, and they're like, well, fuck. That one bitch gave me some fucking diseases. Why didn't I go fuck all those other bitches that I wanted to fuck? Didn't want to get that disease, but, I mean, come on. That's what dude would be thinking. Dude would be like, oh, here I am dying of this shit that I was trying to avoid. Through no fault of my own, I got it. I should have been out having fun. I should have done this. I should have done that. We're always, you know, at the end of things, I think people have more, I should have done this than I shouldn't have done that type of regrets. I think most of us wish that we would have gone bigger with things, took that chance, didn't play it safe this time. I think most of us will look back on the stuff we didn't do versus the stuff we did we shouldn't have done. I've got a lot of both. It's always like, why didn't you say something? So, anyway, I've had a good day. I hope that you've had a good day. If you didn't, the day is still not over. Every moment is an opportunity to turn things around. And if you're so fucking done with the day, have yourself a reset. No shame in that. Sometimes you got to have a reset. Sometimes you're going to have a bad day. It's not a bad life, not a reason to end it all. This too shall pass. But try to look at things from a positive frame of mind. Even death can be a good thing. Not yours, of course, but sometimes it's about looking at the positive aspect of something. It may be sad for us, but we might look at things 3 months, 6 months down the road and say, that happening at that time was for the best. You find out somebody's tragically killed in a car accident. And then during the autopsy, you find out that they've got some kind of cancer that would have left them in immeasurable pain for the rest of their life, which wouldn't be that much longer anyway. And you say, well, that car wreck saved them a lot of suffering. So it was a blessing, even though they lost that 6 months. 6 months that they would have been in pain. 6 months they would have been sick from chemo, or whatever. I could go on and on. I'm not gonna. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night.